Go.
Oh, somebody left the call. Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Did he leave? Oh,
It
I
said
didn't even
Jason
see.
left.
Yeah, I didn't even see that. Oh, there he is. We may
Oh.
have to restart this.
There we go. Yeah, it came back. Oh, that's interesting.
Is it recording still, or?
It's
It says
recording.
live.
All right, so you're back though.
That went weird. All right, so cool. All right, Logan, it's all you.
All right. Well, now that we're all here, we're going to go ahead and just start out with our first discussion regarding functions, properties, methods, and instantiation. Sorry. What's that last one?
Instantination.
Instantination. Thank you. Text is tiny here on my phone. By Ryan Hunter.
All right. So yeah, I'm doing the JavaScript functions, properties, methods, and instantations, or however you pronounce that.
Instantination.
Instantination.
I know.
I was struggling with that one. I'm just like, I'll just roll with it. So first, functions. A JavaScript function is just a block of code designed to perform a particular task, and the function is executed when something invokes it or calls it, kind of. And on the right, there's a small example just of how you create a function. You function name, and then the parameters are within those parentheses, and then the code that you want to be done, the function you want to be done, goes in between the curly brackets there.
Cool.
And then declaration or expressions. Declared functions are not executed immediately. They are saved for later use and will be executed later when they are invoked or called upon. And then JavaScript functions can also be defined using expressions. A function expression can be stored in a variable. And these are, I had examples here as well. Sorry, the function name, that's the same thing. And then the expression one is right here. And then on the next page here, these are some screenshots of simple code I got from online. And then you can see the declaration one's on the left. The left, and the expression is on the right. And right here is the expression, the difference, where here's the declaration. So properties are the JavaScript properties are values associated with objects, and objects. JavaScript object is a collection of unordered properties, and they can usually be changed, added, deleted. However, some of them are read-only. JavaScript has 3 different kinds of properties: name data, name assessors, and internal. An example of those for the name data is value and writable. Named assessors are get and set. And then internal property. These ones I didn't quite understand, but it's prototype and extensible.
Prototype and what?
Extensible, is that right?
Yeah, there's actually several of them. I didn't know this is either, and when I was doing my code, there was several. The prototype is one that I did, and pseudo classical instantination, which is like the most commonly used, but which is much easier.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. The extensible, maybe that's another name for pseudo classic. I'm not sure.
I'm not either. That's where I'm reading different sites and different things. It's like you get similar things, but also different things, and you're like, which one's correct? But so accessing JavaScript properties, these are the some of the ways you can access them. The examples are here. If you notice, let me see if I can remember where these are. Oh, right here, the person dot first name is this one, and then the person dot first name with the brackets is the object name, property in the brackets. And these were, again, just pulled offline. Very simple, nothing hard about these. Methods JavaScript methods are the actions that can be performed on objects. Sorry. A JavaScript method is a property containing a function definition. Methods are functions stored as object properties. And so you hear on the right here, you see first name, and then the value is John, the property last name, and the value Doe, and then so on and so forth. And here is where you'll see that in play right there with the methods there.
Could you go back to that real quick?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to compare to. Okay. Yep. And return this. Okay. Cool.
Then,
I got about the same thing. I just wanted to make sure I was on the right track.
Accessing object methods, object name dot method name, and then name equals person dot full name. Typically described full name with parentheses as a method of the person object, and full name without the parentheses as a property. And full name property will execute as a function when it is invoked or again called upon. Either way you want to say that. And then the word I can't pronounce, instantation.
Constantinople.
There are 4 of these in JavaScript, I believe. Functional shared, prototypal, and pseudo-classical.
Oh yeah, okay. Classical. Yeah.
And these ones, I was fairly confused about these since they're so similar, but yet so they do different things. And I read that they said it's hard to master these because of how similar they are and how different things they do. But the functional pattern is commonly used since it is easy to read and also easier to use. It uses the traditional functional approach to make a fleet of objects and instances. Functional shared pattern, they store all the methods, and this is like creating an otter and stuff. So in this example, it stores all the methods of an otter outside of the otter constructor function. This helps solve a lot of the memory usage for shared functions, and that's the issue with the functional pattern. Is if you create a lot of them, usually your memory, you start having memory issues if you use it a lot, because I think each one you create adds on. I wasn't exactly sure how that worked. Here are the prototypal and pseudo-classical. There's slight differences on the prototypal. The constant and otter equals object dot create otter methods is up at the top in the second line, where it's not in the pseudo-classical, and I can't remember why that was, but the pseudo-classical, I feel a lot of people think was the most. It wasn't. Well, let me move on to this page. This compares them all. I really like this one. This helped me a little more to compare.
Now, where did you find this? Where did you find all these comparisons all in one spot?
I just Google searched what they were, and I checked out different sites, and these ones.
Oh, did you put that together? You put that together yourself, like the comparison page?
The screenshots are not mine. I pulled those from online, and the functional and functional shared and these four
Yeah.
were all on the same
Oh, hey,
site.
there's DJ's
Right.
on the call.
They showed the differences and talked about them, and that's why I grabbed them from here so I could kind of compare the same type of code, where they're doing the same thing.
Right.
And
Yeah,
here, this was a
that
different
shot right there would be
site, and I saw this they do all the same things, like it generate objects, assign properties. It's just everything on the left, but you see the differences within the code.
right.
And I just thought that was interesting, so I wanted to keep this in here. And
Definitely.
Yeah, if you find that site again, would you mind posting that on our Hangout chat? Like
yeah, I
just a
can.
link to it? Because yeah, it's kind of a nice reminder.
Yeah, just put a link to it in the video or what have you.
Yep.
But yeah, no, that looks good. I'm still trying to read them on my phone screen, but it looks good.
I still need to write all my code for these as well, because I wanted to use other people's examples to teach, because I don't think mine will be good enough to use to teach. But yes, that's everything from me.
Okay.
All right. Before we move on, do we have any questions about the anything we discussed about the pseudo classical or any of the other methods?
Well, first, hey DJ, how are you?
Good. How are you? Sorry for coming in kind of late, but I just saw the email, so
Oh, gotcha.
yeah, I was.
That's all right.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what time the meeting was, but is that like a regular thing, like 7:30 on Tuesday?
It will
Just-
probably be Wednesday. Just this week is on Tuesday.
Gotcha. Okay. So usually Wednesday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
usually Wednesday. Starting next week, moving forward, unless there's any issues, I think we're all free Wednesdays at 7:30 MST.
Does
Okay.
that work for you, DJ?
Yeah, that should work.
Okay.
Is that just us? Four?
As of right now, yes. We have a
Yeah.
fifth, but we haven't heard from him at all.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Roberto.
Well,
Yeah, Roberto.
glad I'm not the last one. So,
No.
anyways.
Cool. No, I appreciate you going over that. I was able to. I mean, I went through and tried to. I did my code already, and it was just good to compare to that and go, yes, I'm on the right track. So that's very valuable. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, the codes that we're making for testing each of these different things, like I mean, I've put a couple of things on my GitHub page.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I haven't done any of the like requesting
right
whatever we're supposed to do for the competency thing.
And he went over all that in the meeting last night. I can explain that real quick before my lesson if you want.
Either way, I mean, if we want to do it after it's live, I'm fine either way. I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, our live session here, he just wants to see our communication back and forth. He also wants to see our lessons, but it's also about how we talk together, help each other, all that kind of stuff. So as far as our professionalism, so yeah, basically, it was a good meeting. One of the questions I asked was, I was confused about how he wanted us to submit the code and all, everything else. So basically what he said was we should have a website. That website should have, when he goes to it, he should be able to run it and it should function properly. That's the number one thing he's going to do. Like, for instance, in mine, which I'll go into next, is my codes here. This is it online. So if I, enter, this is just a quick, stupid little thing, but I'm just going to put 15 all the way across. So he's going to go in and say, okay, I want to calculate my square footage. When you get calculate, it actually comes up with the right number. Now, this is just my example. It can be anything to go over the, what were they for number one? have them in here somewhere. Oh, loops, conditional statements, functions, and arrays. So that's what I'm going over. So for topic 1, he said it should say topic 1, what your name is and everything. He's going to look at this. If it doesn't work properly, he's going to stop right there, send you a message back and just say, hey, it doesn't work right. I was only able to get to this point. Once it's working, then he'll go in and view your code. He said we don't have to have a GitHub page. The course says that. He's not requiring it. He can go in and actually view this code. And he said that's fine. He's just looking to see how we use it and, and then evaluate from there. Personally, I put a link to my GitHub repository. So I do upload my code to my GitHub repository just for convenience, but that's not required.
So if you just send him a link to the...
Yeah, so the way we do that, let me show you here. Find the right, that's the other class. That's that one. Okay. So the way you do it is assignments, and you have code topics. So you can see I have one submission already, which is my first 2 topics. Here's the rubric, and as soon as he grades it, you'll see where you're at in each of these. If you scroll to the bottom, you click on add a file. You're going to add a blank file. He doesn't want anything in the file. It's just in order to put comments in here, you've got to add a file. Now, just so you know, iLearn won't allow you to upload a blank file, so like a text file. So I just put this is a blank file inside of there, saved that, submitted it. In the comments, he wants to know what the link is. So I'll say topic 1 and give the link to your website. So I would link to, that's my local host, but it's in gantry.ew CIT261. And so I would give him that link. And you put that on there, you send it off, just click submit, and then it'll show one submission. He'll grade it and he'll let you know where you're at. He talked about all of these, these don't have to be submitted every other week or once a week or whatever. He says, obviously he doesn't want us waiting until week 9 to submit everything, but he doesn't have a specific schedule like it says there should be in the course. So he said, just send them to him, as we finish them and we feel that we're comfortable with it. And people did ask, hey, I don't have a website. I don't know how to set up a website. And people in their group said that they would help them out with that. So I just happened to have this one from, for a couple of years and from some other classes. So, so I know, Ryan, you don't have a website. Do you, Logan and DJ, do you guys have websites?
No.
Okay.
No,
I do not, and that's where I'm worried.
So
I haven't done that for a long time, so I don't even know. Like, that's going to be a whole other learning thing for me to try to do.
Right. One thing so before we talk more about that, I guess one thing that we need to do is, since it is a mobile class, we have to make sure everything is responsive. Although for this, it's not. I mean, you can just design it as a small web page and it's fine. He will view it on his mobile phone. He'll probably look at the code on the computer, but he is going to view it on his mobile phone. Once we get through all of our 13 topics, we then think about a final project that we want to do, as long as we have basic in all 13, right? We let him know, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing. This is what my website's going to do. And he'll either approve that or say, you might want to think about, something different. The course material says that that final project will be graded mostly on CSS. And he said he's not doing that. He's going to grade it by each of the 13 topics that were reviewed. So he's going to look for all of the 13 topics to be in this website. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. He also was saying, you know, as you start going through some of these, especially with the CSS and all that, you want to start creating your page to look a little bit nicer, things like that. So it becomes kind of a portfolio as, you know, you go get a job. It's like, oh, look, I did this, I did that, that type of thing. So it looks decent. So yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as a website, I can look up free ones. I know there are some out there. The problem, I was telling Ryan earlier, some of the problems with free hosting sites is they don't have all the servers, you know, plugged in, so that, which most of the stuff we're going to be doing, we're using raw code anyway. We're not, you know, pulling in libraries and things like that. Although some of these we will, but
I thought couldn't GitHub serve a purpose there?
GitHub hosts the code, but you can't run it for, like, you can't use it as a host. So what you would need to do, and you don't necessarily have to even buy a domain. Like my domain is jasonchantry.pw. And then I assigned my website to go, my hosting service to go to this domain. You don't have to have a domain because your hosting service will give you, you know, an address, and you can use that if you want. But somewhere that actually will allow someone to go and it'll run the, you know, the HTML and all that kind of stuff. So it has to be a hosting site. But there could be something weird about, you know, in here that allows you to do that, but I'm not aware of it.
Okay.
But yeah, see, like you can view the code, but you can't run it, if that makes sense. I could be wrong, but view. Yeah. So anyway, my site, where did I, before I go, let's see here. Oh, and make sure you oh, he talked about the journals as well. Someone said, yeah, so I'm just doing mine in Word. Is that fine? He goes, well, that's fine. But, you know, if you want to be creative, I'll give you a better grade for it. So I'm like, great. I just created mine in Word. Because it didn't say otherwise. But he's like, some people.
What did he say?
He was saying to get creative with it. So, for example, you could have.
PowerPoint?
You could do PowerPoint. You could do it on your website. You could have video. So some of your recordings are, you know, you talking to yourself on a video chat, showing the code, all that kind of stuff. He said, just be creative with it and make it look nice. Basically, the feeling I got was when someone is doing research or something and they're recording it for prosperity, you know, it should look nice and presentable type of thing. So I think he wants it.
Journal?
That's for the journal. Yes.
Okay. I just went in a document and I just started creating.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And he said he'll grade it, but he personally is looking for something a little more creative. So what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to keep writing down my text in here, and eventually I'll probably transfer it to my website and add some CSS and make it look nicer. So I'm not sure yet. I haven't gotten that far. But let me, let's see. Webhostingforstudents.com. Let's go there real quick. It was pretty cheap from what I remember. $25 a year. So that it's not horrible, but that's not free either. So
that's not bad though.
That's not horrible. Mine just auto renews. So does my domain. But the reason why I chose this, number one, it was the cheapest one I could find. And number two, it had, for my other classes, it had all of the server extensions that I needed. And it has a pretty good, easy login and all that. So you can actually create subdomains and all kinds of stuff. It was really easy to work with. But what I was going to look at, I was telling Ryan, I can look and see if I can create subdomains and with separate logins. If I can do that, you guys are welcome to use mine, but I don't know if I can do that.
I mean, I think I can afford the $25, but thank you for showing the area to me.
Yeah, go there, just set that up. And then what I use is this FileZilla. This is just an FTP program. So this is all the stuff on my computer, and this is everything on my website. So it'll be, and if you sign up for that one, I can show you how to set it up and all that. But all your code will go in this public HTML. And if you just put in an index.html in there, or HTML, and go to your website, it'll just run. The other thing that, and I don't know how advanced this class is going to get as far as server extensions and all that, but you might need to download this XAMPP. This is just what I use. So if you can run Apache and all these other things. So basically my site won't run unless I have Apache locally, unless I have this Apache module running. So that allows me to test stuff on my computer without having to upload it and view it every time on my webpage, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So but if you guys want to do that with this place or whatever else, I'd be happy to help you.
Yeah, I would be down to.
Yeah, we can have another session.
Do that and set that up and run through that.
Yeah, if you just like send the links or put them in the comments or in the Hangout chat,
sure,
that'd be great.
Let's see if I can find. Where is my? Got too many things open here. Here we go. All right, so just posted it in there.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good, and then you can just cancel it, if you're done and be done with it. Okay, so yeah, get that started. I can also post these other programs if it looks like you're gonna need stuff like that. I can post all this or whatever. This is all free off the internet, but I'll put file. You can just Google it, file. You can also actually go to webhostingforstudents.com, your login and all that, and you can upload files there. This is just much easier. I just click a button and it's uploaded. And then me right here, XAMPP. Both as well. So anyway. All right. So that's pretty much what he went over. He did show us how to upload or how to submit, and that's how I showed you guys that. Did you have any questions on that?
Not right now, I don't think.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I guess I have one more question. Is he expecting any sort of degree of complexity, or can these just be pretty much bare bones as long as it illustrates the given principle?
I think the feeling I got was that it can be bare bones. He's just looking for the code to work. I think as soon as we start getting into the CSS and all that, it's obviously going to have to start looking nice because that's what CSS is, right? But he said he's just going to look for functionality and then for a code and see how we coded it and whether we have a good understanding or not, to see if he could tell if we were able to code that, just kind of off the top of our heads, or did we have to look up? And that's something that I'm putting in on that submission page. I write in there, I feel I was at this level. I was able to come up with these couple things I feel I need to work on, just to give him that honest feedback, where I'm at, and to help him out a little bit. I think he did say he's going to watch these videos of our team meetings, and he'll be able to tell a lot as well about where we're at and how comfortable we are, that type of thing from these videos. He said he will start supplying some code examples, but he doesn't want to do it yet until he kind of knows where we are as a class. So he will start sharing some of that with us.
Okay.
With that, I guess I'll run into just the topic 1, loops, conditional statements, functions, and arrays. It's pretty easy. Is everyone pretty familiar with JavaScript and these different topics?
Yes, I was gonna say
Yeah,
this.
dude.
These first two, the previous one and this one, that's so the extent of my experience. So
Okay.
after this, it's gonna be uncharted territory for me.
How about you, DJ? You pretty comfortable with this?
Yeah, I pretty much do this every day for work. So.
Oh, cool. Oh, you're good. Also, that I did share, DJ, with you, with the whole group, our document. Let's see. Oops. For what we're teaching and all that. Okay. So you can go in there. I just ended up assigning. So Logan and Ryan and I, we kind of picked some stuff, and I just assigned Roberto and you. We weren't sure. This was our first meeting that we kind of did this. So if you want to switch around or whatever, feel free to do that. Again, I don't know if Roberto's going to join us, but these are each of the topics when the lesson's going to be taught. Again, those are subject to change, right? Okay. And it's just some other information. So anyway, that you should see that in your email, an invitation. And there's also, I just shared the entire folder. Right now, there's nothing else in there. But if you want to share anything with us, you can put it in there. And then at the end of the semester, I'll let you guys, before I, delete it or whatever. It's just on my G drive, but you guys can download everything and then we'll get rid of it from there. But anyway, so the first thing I put, well, we know how to insert script and all. I think everyone's pretty comfortable with that. I put that in there because I wasn't sure where we were at. So functions, again, we're kind of reiterating what Ryan taught a little bit. So I just obviously segments of code that you want to execute over and over again, so you don't have to do it multiple times. You can just throw it into one function and call that function. Here I have an example. Enter the length and width of a rectangle, and on a button click, we call this function. Then we go and get those two variables, assign them to len and wid, and then I'm going to return back into this, that paragraph there, what the result would be. So length times width. But anyway, just an example of a function, but Ryan kind of already touched on that. We can call functions with either a function without arguments, or we can add arguments. Again, Ryan went over that. So we can pass length and width to it and have it return what the result will be. Arrays, pretty straightforward. Keep clicking on the wrong thing. So declare an array like this. This is just it can be single dimensional or multi-dimensional. So we can just simply say, index 0 is equal to list item 1, 1 is to 2, and 2 is to 3. I remember when I first started programming a long time ago, that was always hard to remember that 0 is actually 1, and it comes naturally now, but for some reason I struggled with that. But so obviously this would create a list 3 items long, and the first value location is 0. Let's see. I guess I really don't need to go over how to print it on the screen if you guys are kind of familiar, but you can, add this way, or you can do a loop, which would be obviously less code. Well, maybe not in this case, but in most cases. So you can change 1, 2, 3 to a variable I, P, whatever.
I plus plus or
yeah. So you'd say for the I plus plus would increment it, but you started at 0. I have an example of that later, but and then you would just say array I plus plus, and so you would just add to it. It would equal plus, right? So array 1 equal plus itself. So then you can add them together that way. You can create different line, by putting a break in there. There's a couple examples of the different things to put in there. Output it to the log, or you can print it to a string. You can, this JSON stringify, which is actually we'll be going over later, right? I think it's maybe lesson 3. But you can change it over to a string, but you can also use this as well. If you just put JSON.stringify in the array, it'll just put everything into a string for you. It's kind of nice. You can initialize an array with predetermined data. So cities, so index 0 would be Los Angeles, 1 would be Chicago, 2 New York, 3 Atlanta. We can also, this was interesting. So in part of the course, up here it talks about loops, conditional statement, functions, arrays, and then associative arrays. Everywhere it doesn't say associative arrays except for the rubric for grading this topic 1. It says associative arrays. Now we know that JavaScript doesn't support associative arrays, so named indexes. So you couldn't say cities bracket first name close bracket. You can't name that. If you do that, JavaScript will change all of your named indexes over to numbers. So they could not line up potentially. So it's one thing to remember, but you can create an object and do it that way. So this is still an array, but it's an array object. So the first name, so if we do person.firstname, it will return Jason. Person.last name would be Chantry. So we can do it that way as an object, but we can't just say person bracket first name close bracket equals Jason, if that makes sense.
Sure.
One thing to remember. So I did add a couple things in here briefly, how to deal with arrays. If you want to add an entry to an array, you would do .push and whatever your entry is going to be. To remove the last element in an array. So say you have a list and you're going to pull something out, do something with it, but you want to delete it out of the list, you can do .pop, and it will actually return the value that was popped out. But that will delete the last. So if you have 0 through 100, it'll delete number 100. If we want to find out the number of entries in an array, you do an array name .length. That will tell you if there's 6 entries, 10 entries, whatever. If you want to determine whether a variable is an array or not, you can do whatever your array name .isArray and give it array.isArray and give it the array name, and it will return a true or false. I don't know. I can't foresee ever using that because as a programmer, you would know, what variables are what, but I guess that could be useful somewhere. If we want to separate entries with a character, so we could say array name.join. So if I said Jason, Eldon, Chantry, there's 3 entries, and I want to join them all with an asterisk in between them or a comma between them, you could say .join and put whatever. So this would say Jason space asterisk space Chantry space asterisk space, etc. So that was kind of cool. You can do that. Shifting removes the first element, position 0, and shifts all of the rest down. So it will delete 0. It moves the value of 1 to index 0, the value of 2 to index 1, and so on and so forth. So you would do .shift. So that removes the first one. Unshifting adds a new element to position 0 and shifts everything else up. So if you do unshift and new value, then your array name, the index position 0 will equal this, and what was 0 will now be 1, what was 1 will now be 2, and it just pushes it all through. So kind of an interesting way to add. Deleting an element by use delete array name and the index number. That doesn't actually remove it. It doesn't shift it. That's what shifting and unshifting does, but it will change its value to undefined. So basically removing the value, same as equaling null or whatever. Splicing, let's see, where am I at? Splicing arrays will allow us to delete a number of elements within the array. So if we say array name dot splice 3, 2, this will remove 2 elements starting at position 3. So it would remove element 3 and 4 and kind of squish everything up. So it does it that way. We can also add elements using the splice. So say we do 2, 0, and then 2 new elements, whatever the values are here. So that will, starting at position index position 2, it will add those 2. The 0 says we're not deleting anything. So we're actually just, at position 2, squeezing it open, inserting those 2. You could say, I'm inserting these 2 and put 2 in place of that 0. It would delete index 2 and 3 and add those 2 in its place, if that makes sense. Merging arrays is done by concatenating one array into another. So you can say variable array name equals array1 dot concat array2. So this would take whatever's in array2 and array1 and put it in this new array here. Kind of joins them together. Slicing, I'm getting towards the end here. Slicing allows us to create a new array from part of an existing array. So here, for example, this was from W3 Schools. I didn't code this, but so if we have this array of fruits, we can say citrus fruit. So citrus is, we're going to take a slice. We're starting at index position 1, 0, 1. We're starting here, and we're going to go 3. 1, 2, 3. So those 3 will be included in the citrus array. If that makes sense. So kind of a cool little thing to do. And then the last one I have on here, sorting arrays. Sorting is kind of interesting. The sort function doesn't do numbers correctly, because if you have, let's see, the number 1, or excuse me, let's say you have the number 100 and then you have the number 22, it would put 100 before 22 because it looks at the first character. So 1 comes before 2. Does that make sense? Yeah. So to do that, you have to create your own function to sort. And so I got this off of W3 Schools as well. I've not used this personally. Array name dot sort, and you create a function A and B, so those 2 inputs, and return A minus B. And then you can sort descending by changing B minus A. I need to test that out and see how that works. But if you do just do the array name dot sort, it'll sort it alphabetically. And then if you do this dot sort and then do a dot reverse after that, another line, it will switch, alphabetically descending. So that kind of makes sense with all that. There's a lot. You guys are probably already very familiar with it, but there was a couple things in there that I learned. If else, I think pretty much everyone might be pretty familiar with that. So if you put your condition in there, you could be variable 1 is equal to or greater than variable 2, whatever you want to put in there. The 2, I don't know what those are called, but it's above the forwards or the backslash or forward slash. Anyway, 2 of those means or, double equals means equal. That's one that I get caught on a lot when I want to compare You use a single equal sign when you're assigning a value to a variable, right? But when you want to compare, you use 2. You guys probably already know that. I code that wrong all the time. And
Yeah, I've had issues with that as well. I forget.
I always go back. I'm like, why isn't that working?
On here, or if it's, I know it's one of the things relating to true or false, to where you can code it to where it gives back the opposite answer.
Yeah.
To where it will say false for a true statement.
Yes, there's a lot of operands you can use. I didn't put them all on here. I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember that one off the top of my head. Some of these I do have to go in and look.
Yeah.
I got a cheat sheet some of those, but yeah, I think it's a equals slash or a slash equal. It's one of those.
Right.
It would be a not equals. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty corner case.
Yeah. There's also nor, things like that, but you have your if condition. You can do else if as well. So if this condition is true, then you do this. If it's false, it jumps to here. If this is true, it does this. If both of these are false, it jumps to the else and just does whatever's in there. You can have as many of those as you want. Pretty straightforward. Most languages are pretty simple like that. For loops. Oops. So we say for I equals 0. That's meaning we're starting this loop at 0. While I is less than, we're going to say the array name that we're looking at dot length. So whatever while I is less than that, we're going to do what's in here. And then each iteration, we're going to increase I. So I will then be 1, 2, 3. And if this length was 3, it would go through 3. And well, if it was 3, it'd actually go through 2, right? 0, 1, 2. Right. That's 3. So pretty straightforward. There's also different. Did I go through everything? Oh, for in loop. So let's see. Creates a loop that loops through the properties of an object. Yes, this is one I actually just kind of learned. So for X in person, so it will go through each of these. So if there's 3 of them, it's going to go through 3 times. You don't actually have to say, look at person.length, while I is less than person.length. You can shorten it that way. So that's kind of nice. I'll definitely be using that one. While loop. So while X is less than 20, this will just keep on looping until, and so you have to increment it yourself here. So you can do the if, and you can include your while and then increment it in your if statement, but you can also do a while here. So that way you're not incrementing every time. Say you only want to increment when X or when, Y is equal to something, and then you increment or something like that. So you're counting something in an array or something like that. Do while, so you can say do this code, keep looping while this condition exists, while that condition is true. So again, all pretty straightforward. And that's pretty much it. So I did say you can look at the examples of this on my website. But do you guys have any questions? I rambled on for a good 30 minutes.
I think you did a good job explaining everything. I guess another thing that could be mentioned is that in JavaScript, there is a difference between equals and equals. So, for example, in conditional statement, equals allows number to be compared with string. So if integer 4 equals string 4, then it will return true. But if you do equals, it will return false because it has different type of data.
Okay.
So if in your conditional statement, if you're wanting to compare not only the value but also the data type, you use equals. And
okay.
so
well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Again,
Thanks for
I don't
sharing that.
know exactly when you could use that. I mean,
Right. But it's there, because otherwise you have to code it, and it's nice that all of that is there.
Yeah, exactly. So if in case you need that option, you want to do extra validation, you can always have that option. So anyway,
right. Yeah. Oh, perfect. No, thanks.
Right.
I really appreciate it.
Well,
awesome.
Thank you both for the presentations. That was awesome. Any questions or comments? I know that I'm going to be preparing one for next week. The JSON, the JSON thing.
Right.
So I'll put together a little PowerPoint like you've got, and then.
Yeah.
Nice.
Who else had? Let's see, in all of our things here. So it looks like DJ, would you be up to doing the Ajax to consume?
Ajax.
Cool. So since you have so much experience, we'd love to learn from you.
Okay, there we go. That's a huge problem. I don't know if I can teach as well as you can, but I'll give it a shot.
It's all good.
So. No, you're all over the.
I'm not that great at it either. So
yeah. Wait.
Sorry.
So
sorry, what was that?
Oh, go ahead.
DJ, were you saying something?
Yeah, I just had a question. So you guys, you and Ryan taught today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just missed out on Ryan's.
Don't worry, you didn't miss much.
He was finishing up, kind of as you came in. And on this spreadsheet as well, we also have, so Logan was our lead today, so he kind of started the meeting.
Yeah, I see that on the spreadsheet.
So Ryan will do it next week.
Yep.
Yeah, and if anyone, hey, you know what, I can't meet this Wednesday, just let us know on that chat, and I think we're all pretty flexible.
Yeah, if we do need to change times, I would. I prefer to meet later, since it's one of those things where we're not planning for the week. We're presenting what we learned through this week. So if we don't meet Wednesday, and we do need to meet another night, I'd prefer Thursday or Friday. And not too keen about Friday, but better to have time to get stuff ready. And
sure. Well, and I look at these lessons too as, I don't know that it needs to be, hey, I've become an expert and let me teach you. I mean,
mine definitely won't be. You could tell by that.
Well, a group conversation, I think, is great. I mean, and the nice thing about, like, in the middle of the week is now we can go back, and if we didn't quite understand this, now we have a little bit of background to be able to do, our coding, to be able to try to pass that off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, one more thing. I don't know if this was explained in the announcements or whatever, but how does the recording of the meeting work? Like, do you have to if you're presenting the lesson or whatever, do you have to record it yourself, or is there like an organizer that?
No, that's a great question. So what he said is whoever's teaching should record it. If there's 2 people teaching, one can just determine who's going to record it. Somebody can be designated as a clerk, and they're going to be recording it every time. Then what they do is, like, for instance, this is on YouTube. So what I'll do as soon as we're done, I'll post the link to this video on the chat. And then he said it's only required for one of us to upload or to give the link for that group video. He says you can all do it if you want to. That way it shows the little check mark for you, if we want to do it that way. But we only need one person to do it. But I'll put the link, and then if you want to submit it, you can submit it. I'll always submit it.
Can you send the link in an email instead of the chat? That way,
sure.
If I want to go back and look at something, I can find it. It was just easier. That's what my other class that was similar to that. That's what we did, was just send them in emails.
Yeah, I can do that.
The title of which week it was.
And I'll also put the link maybe on this page as well.
Oh yeah, that would be nice too.
because then we can just say, oh, that's the, we just click the link. Go from there.
That'd be nice.
I'd be down with that.
You good with
Either
that?
one or both.
Okay.
Either one.
Okay.
As long as it's somewhere I can click and look back, because I know I did my other class. I went back and
Yeah, you start scrolling through 1,000 pages of
Mhm.
messages.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm with you there. Very good.
All right. Well, are there any other comments or questions regarding the topics tonight or the class that you have questions about?
I think I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Well, if we're all good, we can go ahead and call it a night. Bring this meeting to a close, and just want to thank everybody for all the participation, and just to announce that we'll be meeting again next week, next Wednesday at 7:30 Mountain Standard Time.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
All right, and that will be the set time going forward, unless we need to make a change. But as
All right.
far as I'm concerned, I'm good to meet that time every time.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a
Thanks,
good night,
everybody.
guys.
You
All
too.
right, good night.
Bye.
Bye.